welcome to episode 2 of Urban Bites. We're still in the Midlands, just exploring more of the canal network. Today we're going to be searching the canals of Wolverhampton, and hopefully we can find a fish or two, and I can bring you a few tips along the way. And there's a nice one to start with. So I started off using 7.5 centimetre Zander Pro. Didn't really have any interest in that, so I've switched to the micro fry just to kind of locate some fish. And now we've located them, I might have another go with the Zander Pro just to see if I can pick up a bigger fish. But for now I'm going to have a few more casts with this, see if there's any more about. So there's a lot more going on in these urban waterways than meets the eye. So it pays to pay attention to what's going on around you. Today we've just witnessed a guy feeding ducks, and a lot of people would overlook that, but if you think about it, there's going to be bread particles falling through the water, and that's going to attract the silverfish, and in turn you're going to find the predators nearby. So it pays to work a lure around those areas, and 9 times out of 10 you will find fish there. So another stripey falls to the micro spiky. In fact, I've changed lure patterns. We've picked up another fish, if you can see. It's getting back. Hopefully there'll be a few more around where he came from. So as I just mentioned, I've switched lures now to the micro spiky in the lemon tiger colour. And that's because we're fishing around a lot of structure, bridges for example. And as we know, the light can't get into, there's not much light under bridges. So using a UV pattern that's quite bright, hopefully the lure stands out a bit more and the fish can see it and gives you every chance of catching them. So another great thing about bridges, other than the fact that they hold fish, is you can use them as a vantage point wherever you can. You can use them as a vantage point. So there's a good way for you to be able to get your bearings and see what's going on, especially in clear water. You can kind of work out the structure that you're casting into, whether there's snags that you need to avoid, and whether there's underwater features that do hold fish. So by using the bridge to our advantage, we've been able to spot those bait fish, and we've managed to pick off a perch by casting towards them. So because of the weed, I've decided to switch to a hard bait. So we've gone for a slick stick to start with. It's just because it matches the profile of the bait fish that we've seen perfectly, and as you've seen I've tied on a wire trace just because there's some pike in the area. Hopefully we can pick one of those up. So as I was working the slick stick, I saw a very big fish following that I thought was a pike initially. Turns out it was a perch of probably £3 or about, but unfortunately it wouldn't commit to taking the lure, so I've changed the lure back to the micro fry just to see if the change sparks him to take it. So we've moved a bit further along, managed to winkle out a better fish. Beautiful colours on this one. If he'll stop wriggling. And the spiky shad. So as I mentioned earlier, I like fishing around structure on these urban waters, and as you can see here, we've got a building with a nice little ledge, and there's poles coming off the ledge that enter the water, and they potentially provide a safe haven for fish. And there's also a lot of foliage. There's always natural food items that can fall off that foliage into the water, and the fish might be waiting for that food. So it pays to work those areas. So we've been making our way down the canal, trying various different spots. I've been using a few different methods. I'm currently working the micro grub, and I'm alternating between that and the salmo bullhead just to cover different options. So we've just come across this junction, and to me it looks perfect for a fish or two. You've got a bridge behind us here, and then you've got a boat, all sorts of different structure. I can't see why there wouldn't be a fish here. So I've just had a shoal of wasps following the micro grub. I managed to pick one off out of the shoal. It's all fun and games. Let's put him back. So as I mentioned before, this area with the boat and the junctions, it's a very likely looking spot. I feel quite confident there's fish here, so it paid off to consistently work the area, and it took a while to get those fish to follow the lure and to create a bit of competition between that shoal of small fish to get one of them to finally commit. So we've come back to where we had a fish earlier. I thought I'd run a hard bait through. I've managed to bag one on the salmo hornet. And there we go. A nice hornet caught perch. Little warrior. Just managed to pick up another perch on the hornet. Just goes to show that's what they want at the moment. It's always handy when you're fishing these crankbaits with the treble hooks to have a pair of pliers on hand. It's a lot easier to unhook the fish. So we're working our way back along the canal, and we've come back to the spot where we had a few fish earlier. So as I've mentioned before, at this time of the year, while it's still cold, the fish are holed up in certain spots, and we've proved that today by working quite a large range of the canal, and it seems the fish are holed up in one particular spot. Well, a lot of fish are holed up in one particular spot. So we're just working that spot now with the micro grub on a jig head and the crankbaits. So the fish seem to be a bit more up for it now as the day's gone on, so the crankbait seems to be working well at the moment. Perhaps the water's warmed as the day's gone on with the sun hitting it, and that's provoked the more aggressive response. So we're going to work this area for a little bit longer, and then we'll work our way back. So I'm going to have a few more casts here. Maybe I can find that fish that wouldn't fully commit earlier. But hopefully you've enjoyed this episode, and hopefully you've picked up a few tips that you can go out and use in your own fishing on these urban waterways.